So here are a couple more irregular systems. We have the Spanish systems. These were land grants to prior settlers as parts of treaties, typically connected to water as well, often community grants rather than individual grants. And so an example of that is the League and Labor system, and this was similar to the Diurnal system. A league and labor was the allotment given to settlers in some Spanish territories. A league was 4,400 acres of grazing land, and a labor was 170 acres of farmland, typically in a floodplain. Settlers were often granted both for farming and ranching. While these can be harder to spot on the landscape, there are still some areas in Texas, California, and New Mexico where one can still see these early land divisions. All right, so let's talk about regular systems. So we have grid systems. Many early civilizations divided land prior to settlement, and so this is a Roman city plan, and we could see clear grids in both of those. So again, people used grid systems throughout the world in ancient and modern civilizations. As the U.S. began to acquire territory, surveyors determined that a more regular system of land partitioning was needed since the metes and bounds was kind of all over the place. The Land Ordinance of 1785 established the U.S. Public Land Survey System, or PLSS. The PLSS is a systematic way of subdividing and describing the land in the United States. The U.S. Public Land Survey System is comprised of square grids divided into townships and ranges. As a result, the PLSS is sometimes called the Township and Range System. So with township and ranges, we have meridian and baseline surveyed. And so we have that principal meridian and we have our baseline. And so these will be denoted on the maps that you are reading. So townships are rows and ranges are columns. So that is a row. This is a column. So range, township. And each township is further divided into sections, and each section is divided into fractions. So if we're looking at one square here, so let's say we're looking at this square, we have township range to, or township to south and range to west. And so within that we have our sections, and then within section 13, it is divided into 4 more sections, and then those sections are divided into fractions. Land surveyors would select an initial point at an intersection of a parallel and meridian. The starting parallel was called the baseline, and the starting meridian was named the principal meridian. The first PLSS survey was measured in Ohio in the northwest corner of the state at what is now called the first principal meridian. Several methods were tested, but once the system was refined, it was used to survey new territories added to the United States. Surveyors gave each new principal meridian and baseline a name. They sometimes use a sequential number, such as the second principal meridian or the third principal meridian. In other cases, surveyors gave the principal meridian and baseline a geographic name. For example, the westernmost principal meridian and baseline in the conterminous United States are called the Humboldt meridian and baseline. So we could see that Humboldt baseline and meridian up here in the northwest corner of the state of California. Okay, so let's do a little bit of public land survey practice. So if we're looking at different sections of a grid line or of a township and range grid anyways, we have our first principal meridian here. We have a baseline, and then we can see our townships sectioned out here, and we have our ranges sectioned out on top here. So of course, here's our principal meridian. So everything east of the meridian is going to be denoted as east. Everything west of the meridian is denoted as west. And then here we have our baseline, everything north of the baseline is north, everything south is south. So if we were to use this one as an example, so this township is going to be township 2 north, range 7 east. So here's that 2 north and range 7 east. If we were to look at this square here, we have our township 2 north and our range 10 west. If we were to look at this one, we have township 3 south, range 4 west, and so on with the other colors. So once we have our township and range, we have township 2 north, range 7 east. This is broken up into 36 sections, and then we have section 24, and then we're zooming in on section 24, and it's broken up into its 4 divisions, and then those 4 divisions are then broken up into fractions, and so this would be within the southwest section, and then this number 4 would be in the north fraction of the southwest section. So when we are notating our public land surveys, we want to write the smallest to largest, so you're starting in those fractions, working up through sections until we get to our township and range grid. And then we talk about, we always include the meridian as well. So here's our sample notation. So we have our northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter of section 24, township 2 north, range 7 east in the Humboldt meridian. So that wraps up week 7's lecture. There is a quick extra credit opportunity if you choose to do so. Please go to mytopo.com/maps and see if you could find your house in PLSS coordinates. Also, you can ask someone you know who owns their house how their deed lists the land, and you can put these 2 answers into a Word document, save it as a PDF, and include it in your submission for the Working with Spatial Reference assignment page.